Welcome to the deep dive. I'm so incredibly thrilled that you are joining us today.
Yeah, we have something truly spectacular lined up for you this time.
We really do. We are looking at a stack of breathtaking images, along with their incredibly detailed captions, from the Underwater Photographer of the Year 2026 competition.
Mm-hmm. The ones recently featured in The Guardian.
Exactly. And I want to set the record straight right out of the gate here. If you think we're just going to be doing some, polite, quiet art review
You
today,
are in for a massive surprise.
you really are.
That's the perfect disclaimer, honestly, because these aren't just pretty pictures to hang in a gallery lobby. What we have sitting in front of us is a profound, really unfiltered look into the hidden society of the ocean.
Right.
These sources, they represent raw narratives of life, death, and survival in an environment that is entirely alien to us as land dwellers.
Yeah, we are going to explore some heavy universal themes today. We're talking about profound connections, ultimate sacrifices, and just the absolute bizarre mysteries of the deep sea.
Okay, let's unpack this because to truly appreciate these photographs, we have to look past the beautiful colors, right?
Mm,
We have to understand the intense biological dramas unfolding in that very fraction of a second the shutter clicked.
exactly. The visual aesthetics are really just the invitation. What we'll be doing is diving into the biological and environmental why behind these behaviors.
Hmm.
Every single image we're looking at is a doorway into the complex ecology of our planet's waters. And we are going everywhere today, from shallow coastal rock pools all the way down to the crushing pitch black depths.
Let's start with a photograph that honestly, it just stopped me in my tracks. It's the winner for British Waters, taken by Tom Ingram off Porthcare's Beach in Cornwall. It's called Macro Mum.
Oh, this is such a powerful image. It really is. I want you to picture this. You are looking at a visceral, face-on shot of a female octopus. The texture of her skin is incredibly detailed, almost sculpted looking.
Mm-hmm.
Her bright orange eyes are staring right at you, and her tentacles are tightly curled around her body. But then, as you look closer at the background, you see what she is encircling. It's her offspring, just dozens of her eggs.
And that visual framing is so crucial
Mm-hmm.
because of the biological reality of what she is doing in that exact moment.
Mm-hmm.
What's fascinating here is the absolute extreme of instinct versus self-preservation.
Right.
She isn't just hovering near those eggs. She is actively guarding them, physically cleaning them,
Yeah.
and constantly wafting oxygen-rich water over them so they don't suffocate.
But reading the caption provided by the photographer, that's the detail that changes everything about how you view this image.
Mm.
She doesn't leave their side, not once. She doesn't even leave to feed herself, does she?
No, she doesn't. And she knows that once those eggs hatch, she's going to die. Octopuses are semiparous, meaning they reproduce only once before death. This photograph captures her final few weeks of life.
That's just incredibly tragic.
It is, but the biological imperative to pass on her genes is so overwhelmingly strong that this highly intelligent creature willingly starves herself to ensure her offspring have a fighting chance.
So we are literally looking at a photograph of her final act of selflessness.
Precisely. It perfectly illustrates how, in nature, the survival of the individual is often entirely secondary to the survival of the next generation. It's a tragic, beautiful, and highly effective evolutionary strategy that has worked for millions of years.
It really makes you rethink the concept of instinct. And to show you that this isn't just an isolated phenomenon in the ocean, we have another incredible source here. This is Ginny Kim's Chamber of Life, taken in South Korea.
Ah, yes. The greenling.
Yeah, and it is a wildly vibrant image. We are looking through a circular frame of bright red soft corals on an artificial reef, and right in the center is a male greenling fish. But he's not his usual camouflaged color. He has been transformed into this brilliant, glowing golden color. Why does that happen?
So that vibrant gold is the result of spawning hormones. It serves a dual purpose in the wild. It attracts potential mates, obviously, but it also signals dominance to deter rival males.
Okay.
And just like our octopus mother in Cornwall, this male greenling is a sentinel. The photographer found him standing watch over his eggs in the dead of winter in the East Sea. He guards them tirelessly in freezing waters until they hatch.
Think about that for a second. You are sitting in the freezing cold, glowing bright gold.
Which makes you a massive target for predators, by the way.
Right. Just to make sure your offspring make it.
It's a heavy burden.
Hmm.
I want you to think about the universal nature of parental devotion here. Whether it's off the coast of a British beach or in the freezing depths of South Korea, these extreme sacrifices are woven into the very fabric of nature. The ocean demands a high price for the next generation.
But survival isn't always about solitary, lonely sacrifice. Sometimes survival requires a team. Here's where it gets really interesting. We see all these beautiful connections in the shallows, but let's pivot to the theme of connection and cooperative defense.
Oh, this is my favorite part.
I want to talk about Ventura Romero's photo, Together We Can, which was a runner-up in the behavior category.
This is a truly remarkable capture from the Indian Ocean, right between Reunion and Mauritius.
The story behind the photo is like an action movie. The photographer was descending to about 20 meters, watching a group of sperm whales. Suddenly, an oceanic white-tipped shark appears. The shark approaches the whales, retreats, and then starts swimming right at the photographer. And then, out of the blue, this group of sperm whales rapidly ascends toward the photographer and the shark. But they aren't just swimming chaotically, they form this tight head-forward formation. Why would they group up like that instead of just biting the shark or swimming away?
Because what you're looking at is a literal battering ram.
A battering ram.
Yes. This image entirely shatters the stereotype of whales simply being gentle, passive giants drifting through the water. What we are witnessing is a highly complex tactical defense mechanism.
Wow.
To coordinate a head-forward battering ram formation requires immense intelligence, split-second communication, and a deep social bond among the pod. They recognized a threat to their group and the diver, communicated a strategy underwater, and executed a cooperative military maneuver perfectly.
It's like watching an underwater cavalry charge. And the shark immediately aborts its approach and flees, naturally. But just to balance out that intense tactical maneuver, we also have Cecile Gabillon-Barat's photo Happy Baby, taken in Dominica.
Such a great contrast.
The photographer was in the water with a mother sperm whale and her calf. The mother dives to look for food in the deep, leaving the youngster at the surface. And what does the baby do? It spins around, approaches the humans, rolls completely upside down playfully, and opens its mouth to show off its little emerging teeth.
It's a wonderful juxtaposition to the previous photo. On one hand, you have the highly coordinated, lethal defense of the adults, and on the other, the completely uninhibited curiosity of a juvenile. It speaks volumes about the complex emotional and social lives these marine mammals lead. They have downtime, they have play.
And speaking of that kind of cross-species curiosity, there's an incredible shot by Mère Yobera from Canada called White Spirits.
Oh, the belugas.
Yeah, the photographer just floated at the surface, and these wild beluga whales came up to her completely voluntarily. They were vocalizing, making direct eye contact, and showing unmistakable curiosity.
That voluntary interaction is the key takeaway there. It shows a cross-species connection where the animals are entirely in control of the encounter. They're setting the pace and choosing to engage with the human simply out of an inquisitive nature. It's a humbling reminder that we are guests in their world, and sometimes they're just as fascinated by us as we are by them.
But connection in the ocean isn't always between large, highly intelligent mammals. Sometimes it is incredibly delicate and microscopic. Take Simon Thiema's macro photo, A Time to Dream, from Australia.
A fantastic pivot. This image requires you to really look closely to understand what's happening.
The background is this bright, neon-colored mosaic sea star full of incredible geometric textures, and resting perfectly on one of its arms is a tiny 20-millimeter commensal shrimp. It's almost translucent, like a little glass garter.
And for those unfamiliar with the term, commensal means that this tiny shrimp relies on the sea star for shelter or transportation, benefiting from the relationship without harming the sea star at all. It's a microscopic view of an entire ecosystem at work. That tiny shrimp's entire universe is that sea star, representing the delicate balance woven throughout the marine world. The photographer perfectly noted that the patterns evoke Aboriginal Dreamtime stories, stories that emphasize how everything in nature is deeply interconnected.
You really see that interconnectedness in the wider ecosystem shots, too. René Capizzola's Sunset Patrol shows a shark swimming just under the surface in French Polynesia, with this gorgeous sunset above.
A stunning image.
That area is a pristine biosphere reserve, and the presence of that apex predator signifies a perfectly balanced reef ecosystem. And then you have Living Wreck by Jean-Baptiste Cazajus in France. It's a 1945 cargo ship sunk by a mine.
The Donator, yes. The timeline of this photograph is what makes it so compelling. It's fascinating how human tragedy and artificial artifacts are eventually completely reclaimed by the ocean.
The caption says it's completely covered in gorgonians and anthias. What exactly are we looking at there?
So gorgonians are those beautiful branching sea fans you see waving in the current, and anthias are those tiny, brightly colored reef fish that swarm around corals.
Oh, right, the little orange and pink ones.
Exactly. That sunken wreck is now a thriving artificial reef. It shelters thousands of fish and serves as an anchor point for sponges and corals. Life in the ocean connects and builds upon whatever's available, transforming a sunken machine of war into an oasis of biodiversity.
So we've seen these beautiful connections in the shallows and on the reefs, but when you drop down into the pitch black deep ocean, the rules of survival completely change. Let's descend into the truly bizarre mysteries of the deep. Specifically, Stephen Kovacs's portrait of a snake-tooth fish, also known as a swallower, taken off the coast of Florida.
Ah, the screaming Zweller. This is an absolute masterpiece of deep water biology and timing.
It looks like a monster out of a science fiction movie. It's floating in complete ink-black water with these large, elegant, almost fan-like fins covered in dots. And right as the camera flashed, it let out this massive yawn, its jaws opening impossibly wide. It looks like it's screaming into the void. Why on earth does a fish need a mouth that looks like that?
This is where extreme adaptation comes into play. The deep ocean is an environment of immense scarcity. There's no sunlight, no plant life, and meals are incredibly few and far between. So, fish in this family have evolved to ensure that when they do finally stumble across food, they do not miss out, regardless of the size of the prey.
The caption says its mouth and stomach can expand to consume prey up to twice its own length and 10 times its own weight. 10 times its weight. How does a stomach even physically stretch that far without tearing?
Their stomachs are incredibly elastic, almost like a balloon. Imagine sitting down at a diner and eating 10 times your own body weight in a single sitting, simply because you don't know if a restaurant will ever open again in your lifetime.
That is horrifying.
That is the reality for this fish. What looks bizarre or terrifying to us is simply a highly efficient survival mechanism that has been fine-tuned over millions of years in the dark.
That diner analogy is terrifying. And honestly, the ocean is full of these ancient, mysterious behaviors that we still barely understand. Evan Johnston captured one in Scotland with his photo, A Meeting of Giants. It shows massive basking sharks in the Sea of the Hebrides. They had just finished feeding and they formed this tight shoal. Then they started swimming in these slow, rhythmic circles, spiraling down into the deep.
A behavior known to marine biologists as a torus. This raises an important question because, frankly, science doesn't fully understand it yet. It is widely thought to be a courtship behavior, a precursor to mating, but because it happens out in the open ocean and descends into the depths, it largely remains a mystery.
Imagine being the photographer just floating there in the frigid Scottish waters, watching these massive silhouettes silently spiral down into the dark abyss. It makes you realize how much of this planet is still a total mystery to us. Witnessing it is like peeking in on an ancient ritual.
Exactly. And sometimes the mystery isn't an ancient ritual. Sometimes it is just raw instinct ticking in when everything else is gone. The overall winning photograph of the entire competition captures exactly that. It's called Rock Pool Rookies, taken by Maddie Smith in the Falklands.
This is such a powerful image. We are looking at elephant seal pups, but the context is crucial to understanding the weight of the photo. These pups are several weeks old. They have been weaned from their mother's milk and their parents have entirely abandoned them on the shore. They are left to navigate life completely alone.
Yeah.
The photo shows them in the shallow rock pools, awkwardly clambering over one another. The sky above them is lit up with this dramatic, fiery sunset.
The philosophical weight of this image is staggering. It perfectly encapsulates vulnerability and the awe of biological clocks. There are no parents around to protect them. There's no older seal to teach them how to swim or hunt. The biological clock has ticked, the parents have left, and now these young seals must rely on pure, unadulterated instinct to survive their first true test in the water.
It's amazing that they just figure it out.
It's a harsh, beautiful reality of the wild. They inherently know what to do, even if they're clumsy at first.
And the wild can be downright terrifying when those instincts involve hunting. Sam Blount's photo, Lunging Leopard, captures a massive leopard seal in Antarctica. The photographer wanted to see this apex predator face to face, and he definitely got his wish. The photo is basically just the inside of this massive mouth lined with razor-sharp teeth charging straight at the lens.
Leopard seals use a vast array of dominance displays. Darting around with effortless power and opening those massive jaws is a clear signal of who owns that icy water. It's the sheer terror and thrill of interacting with an apex predator on its own terms. You are in their domain, and they are letting you know it.
But sometimes, the mystery and magic of a photo come entirely from the photographer's technical brilliance. Fabian Becker's photo Jaws turns a common skittish lizard fish in the Philippines into a literal work of art.
This is a wonderful example of how lighting changes perspective. Lizardfish usually blend perfectly into the sandy reef, camouflaging themselves. But the photographer carefully positioned a strobe light entirely behind the subject. This backlighting completely isolated the head from the environment.
Right, because he shot it from a very low angle. The impressive jawline, the skin textures, and the reflective eyes just emerge from the blackness. It transforms this ordinary, grumpy-looking fish into something that looks like a heavy bronze sculpture.
It highlights the architecture of the animal in a way you'd never see in natural sunlight. And speaking of lighting physics, Andrea Micheluti used actual optical science for his winning compact camera shot, Alpine Lookout.
I love this one. He was in a freezing cold alpine lake in Italy, waiting for years to get the specific composition. A freshwater crayfish actually swam right up and touched his dome port lens. But the background is what makes your brain hurt a little bit. You can see the Italian mountain peaks above the water through this perfect bright cone of light. How does that work?
That cone of light is a phenomenon known as Snell's window.
Snell's window. Okay.
Right. It's a quirk of optical physics, where the refraction of light allows an underwater viewer, whether that's a camera lens, a human diver, or even that little crayfish, to see a compressed circular view of the entire 180-degree hemisphere above the surface.
Wow.
It visually bridges the gap between two completely separate biospheres, the underwater ecosystem and the towering alpine air above.
The technical patience to capture a macro subject perfectly framed within Snell's window is just staggering. And finally, we have one more mystery to touch on. The mystery of time and space. Ginny Kim's photo shared time was taken in the Nohuk Nachich underwater cave system in Mexico. It shows a diver suspended in the water, a bright light shining through the absolute darkness of the cavern, and the ephemeral trail of rising air bubbles hitting the cave ceiling.
Cave diving is perhaps the closest humans can get to visiting another planet without leaving Earth. The photographer noted that entering that flooded space felt like a profound shift from the present into the distant past. It's an environment where nature and humanity, blinding light and total darkness, all converge in total silence.
It's the perfect image to summarize the emotional spectrum we've been traveling through today. We started with the tragic, fatal devotion of an octopus mother starving herself for her babies. We witnessed the incredible tactical brilliance of a sperm whale battering ram protecting their pod from a shark. And we stared right into the bizarre yawning mouth of a swallower fish living in the deep dark, eating meals 10 times its size.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, what these photographers have given us is a profound gift. Every single photograph we've discussed today is just a frozen second of a continuous ancient drama. The ocean is not an empty, silent void for us to just float over. It is a highly complex, emotional, and bustling society that is operating all around us, mostly unseen. These images force us to acknowledge the intelligence, the sacrifice, and the raw will to survive that exists beneath the waves.
I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over today as you go about your routine. Think about the pitch black depths of the ocean right at this very second as you are listening to this. What other ancient silent dramas, what bizarre mating rituals, or acts of incredible, heartbreaking sacrifice are playing out in the dark right now, just waiting for a single flash of light to be revealed? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the hidden world of our oceans. Keep exploring, keep wondering, and we will catch you next time.